Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and today we are going to make two fun fold emergency cards using the Spellbinders April 2023 card kit of the month. So this piece measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I wrote it on there wrong. And then this pattern paper is 3 3/4 by 5 1/2. I also have this piece that is 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and then these two teeny tiny slivers. I just cut like 4 or 5 slivers and picked two that were about the same size. It's probably like 1/8 of an inch-ish. I'm going to start by adding a triangle of glue. This is in the lower left. And then I am adding this blue cardstock on top of it. You could just put it all over, but I wanted to save some of that blue cardstock. So here, I am going to cut this at a diagonal. I am lining up that tip at the bottom on the blade and then the corner of the card, and we're going to create this diagonal. Then I'm going to take the light blue cardstock and essentially do the same thing. I'm cutting it at a diagonal from corner to corner, and that will fit perfectly right on that darker blue. You could leave the triangle just like that, but I brought in the Spellbinders 2D embossing folder called Hand Drawn Scallops just to add a little interest. So I used a baby wipe just to wet it down very slightly, and then I will run it through after I've kind of lined it up with that scallop pattern. I am going to shellac the back of this because I've added some texture. I want to make sure that this is going to stick on there really, really well. This is a variation on one of the March emergency cards, but I wanted to show you how you could switch things up a little bit. So here I'm taking this heart die cut piece and I'm layering it up. I have this orange that has some blossoms coming out of the side. I don't want the oranges, I just want the blossoms. So I'm going to glue that to my 2-inch circle, and then the huge hugs or whatever sentiment I end up with will cover the orange, but I've got a little extra interest. I am in love with the idea of using die cut pieces to dress up my emergency cards. I love die cutting and stamping and coloring and all those things, but this is so quick and easy, and sometimes I want that too. On the inside of the card, I am adding my pattern paper, and I am just going to line this up so it goes from top to bottom, right? It'll match right up. This is 5 1/2 inches. And then I have an equal margin on either side. That's about 1/4 inch, a little more. So then these pink pieces, I'm trying to decide, do I want them in that white space? But ultimately, I decided I wanted them to overlap that pattern paper. Again, it's just creating a little more visual interest. I know you're like wondering where I'm going to put the sentiment. For me, I don't always need a ton of space for the sentiment. Sometimes I do, depends on who the card is for. So the white corner, the white triangle there, that's where I'll write my sentiment. And sometimes, especially if it's something like a sympathy card or an apology, I mean, anything that's really hard to give, sometimes I don't know what to say. So a card like this that just is pretty and then has some space to write a small message, that works for me. I am gluing our die cut pieces and our sentiment piece to the front, and I'm just kind of centering that on there. I use my fingers to remind me of where I'm allowed to put the glue because otherwise I would glue my whole card shut. And then you get 2 of each die cut piece. So on this second one, I'm adding glue all over it, and I'm just going to line it up on the back. You wouldn't have to do that. I just thought it added some extra interest and another surprise of color on the inside. And that is our first fun fold card. Let me know in the comments if you've tried this one yet. So for our second fun fold card, you guys, I'm in love with this one. This is 2 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I have the same pattern paper, and I have cut a second strip that is 3/4 of an inch by 5 1/2. You could just do an A2 size, but I was saving paper. So then the green is 2 by 5 1/2. For the inside, I have a strip that is 1 inch by 8 1/2 inches, 4 pieces that are 2 1/8 by 2 1/8, so those are squares, and then 4 white squares that measure 1 7/8 by 1 7/8. You could do 2 by 2 and 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. It just doesn't quite cover everything. This strip is 1 3/4 by 5 1/2. It doesn't need to be that big, but you'll see later what we do with it. And then this is 2 by 5 1/2, and it is a mat for that pattern paper. So I am going to set aside the inside pieces and we will deal with those later. And we're going to start by assembling the outside of our card. I'm taking this thin strip and I am just going to glue that right along the very edge of my card. And then I will take the larger strip and glue it along the right-hand side. So that's where my card opens. I'm covering up that white space with the green. So I didn't feel like I needed to use an entire piece of pattern paper for that. I wanted to save it for another card. So I am just using a white gel pen and I'm adding a dot pattern. Some of them are slightly open circles and then my dots are in like small, medium, and large kind of. There's no rhyme or reason. I did set it aside to dry because the gel pen can smear if you touch it too quickly. And then I will add this as a strip right down sort of the left center of my card. I love that the green is a really bold pop of color. Then I'm adding my 2-inch circle for my sentiment and I will add a get well with temporary adhesive. We're gonna have 2 emergency sentiments on this one. Get well cards are hard for me. And so I really liked the idea of having one that was kind of ready to go that I had planned in that way. So there are some puffy stickers in this kit. The kit has so much in it. There are chipboard stickers and puffy stickers. And then this one also had this huge set of chipboard alphabet stickers that I didn't even use. I don't know, I'll save them for something else. So I wanted to create a little dimension on this card and I am just adding these 3 stickers in sort of a line up at the top. But they're almost exactly the same size. So I'm fiddling a whole bunch and trying to make sure they're straight on a card like this. I just feel like you have all these organic shapes and then you have these more geometric pieces. And so they draw your eye and you can really tell if they aren't straight. So anyway, I'm doing my best. They say sweetest hugs, blooming lovely, and sweet, lovely, kind. Then there are tons of tiny die cut pieces, little circle pieces in this kit. And I am using 3 hearts in coordinating colors. I like how everything fits together. And that finishes the front of our card. And the inside, this piece is 1 by 8.5. So I'm going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to fold the flaps back on each other in half again. So if you wanted to measure this on a scoreboard and do it that way, I would do 2 1/8, 4 1/4, and then I would just rotate it around and do 2 1/8 again. And we're going to end up with this M shape. It's going to go into our card exactly like that. I'm going to emphasize it because you can tell that I already had to rip it out of my card. So I'm going to add glue to one of these feet, and the flap that is not connected, right, that edge, is going to go right to the side and I'm going to leave a little gap. You could put it all the way out there, but this just gives me more wiggle room. And then I will add glue to the other one. And you can see I have this sort of mountain in the middle of my card. That's what I want. So here I am taking my 4 green squares and I am just going to layer my white squares right on top of them. You wouldn't have to do this, but I felt like the white cardstock really helped to make my images pop. For all of these white pieces, you can certainly cut them from one of the white card bases. You get 8 card bases in the kit. And so that strip is really just a 1-inch strip where I cut it off a card base, right? And the middle fold was already there for me. But you could also use scrap cardstock. I feel like you have a card base already made for you, and we all have scrap white cardstock. So anyway, these flowers match the flowers on the front of the card. They're the die cut pieces from the kit, and I am adding 3 of those. And then I have a pale pink circle that I cut from some of the cardstock in the kit, and I'm going to add this huge hugs. So my card says get well soon on the outside and huge hugs on the inside. And I'm just trying to figure out what order I want these in on the inside of my card. And I'm going to add them one at a time. So I'm adding glue to the inside of the card, only on the strip. For the 2 on the end, you could add it to the entire strip, but I just didn't want to get in the habit of that because I will mess it up. And then for the second one, I've added glue to the strip and I'm turning this side as well. I want to line that up so that each of my squares is parallel with the other ones. You don't have to. I mean, you could do some wonky like one above, one below. That'd be really cute too. And then I am just lining up the 4th one. And the whole card is going to fold close. It does create some bulk. I'm going to probably hand deliver this one, but I'm okay with that. Then I have this piece of pattern paper and then a cardstock mat. I don't need the whole thing. So instead of measuring, I'm just lining it up on the card to see where I want it to go and using a pencil to mark where I want to put my glue and then where I'm going to put this into my trimmer to cut it. That seemed so much easier to me than breaking out a ruler, 6 cards in. There's another video. If you haven't seen it already, I have 2 emergency card videos from this kit and an unboxing. I'll link all of that below. And then I put that on the inside. And this is our second fun fold card. I've seen these made for a long time and I can't believe I waited this long to try it. It was surprisingly easy and I think it has great impact. So here's card number 1. Again, this is a spin on one of the emergency cards from March. I'll link all the emergency card kits below. They have free printable sentiments. And then the second one with that inside pop-up. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I will see you next time.